Hello, hello, YouTube friends. It is your Astro Coach Sarah here for your full moon in Sagittarius forecast. This full moon is on May 31st. I do believe that makes it a blue moon because we had a full moon on May 1st. So that one was in Scorpio. This one is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a bit more fun. It's a fire sign. It is more of a like international, like foreign, long distance. Uh, you know, what else am I thinking of here? It's a little bit partier. It's jollier. Um, and I think it has the potential to, I feel like it has the potential to be a really fun, but very chitty, chatty, talkative full moon weekend. It's going to peak on Sunday, the 31st at about 3:45 a.m. Central Time, so adjust for your time zone. Um, but heading into, I would say even on Saturday when the moon comes into Sagittarius and it opposes Uranus and Gemini, ahead of it opposing the sun in Gemini. I think that Saturday, not that Memorial Day weekend wasn't fun. Um, as far as like lots of information, lots of news, lots of events, lots of things happening. And so ahead of that full moon, like a week ahead, the Memorial Day weekend, we had lots of events happening in the world, right? We had the situation in Southern California happening with a chemical situation. I think it was like a tank leaking or something like that that could have been nasty. And we've had other types of things like that. And then we had, of course, we have things going on with Iran, we have things going on with Taiwan. And here's the thing, because I'm not trying to make this political, but it's an as above, so below situation, right? Where do you notice like the power plays happening or like people are speaking their mind type of things happening? Because as we get closer to July, we have the big transit between all these outer planets. I showed you that before. I'll show you it again. But we have, huge harmonious. I know it doesn't feel harmonious, but work with me, hang with me for a second. We have this harmonious cosmic conversation between Uranus and Pluto and Neptune, and Jupiter will join in late July. It is harmonious, I promise. But when we have the most harmonious transits happening in the with the planets in the sky is when we see the craziest, darkest things happening, right? When you're getting close to your breakthrough is when you will probably experience the craziest, weirdest, potentially darkest, low vibe shit you've ever experienced, right? I'm kind of in that boat right now. I'm like 5 weeks away from my manuscript deadline, and life is lifing, right? So um, I will also say too, so I live in the Midwest, and I think we've seen the last of the rain for a long time. It's gonna be a very hot dry summer because we have very little water in the chart. Now, currently we have Jupiter in Cancer, which is a water sign. Venus is in Cancer, water sign. And during June, July, and August, part of August, we will have Mercury in Cancer, which is a water sign. But outer planets, meaning Saturn, Jupiter starting the end of June, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, all in fire and air signs. This is the world of fire and air. It is very loud. It is very lots of things happening all at once, right? There was a movie, everything, everywhere, all at once. It was a movie. I did watch it audio described. I want to say I watched it on Amazon. Can't remember. But that's what feels like it's happening right now is we're getting lots of information from lots of directions all at once, right? And hopefully by July we will start to see we will definitely see some sort of change by July. Like we'll see some massive change by July because July kicks off with Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini for the first time in 77 years. And so then we head into that harmonious transit between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, and eventually Jupiter. So I know it looks a little doom and gloom. I would really invite you to shift your perspective. I have heard people who are freaking out and resistant to systems collapsing. But here's the thing, and this could be just my Aquarius sun, we can do better. So I'm a person with a disability. I think many people who watch my content also have disabilities. Maybe not. I could be wrong, but you know somebody who has a disability. The system for people with disabilities could be better. Okay, it really could. Like, imagine if people with disabilities could actually work to their capacity, because there's literally a line of either you're disabled and you cannot work, or you're disabled and you can work more than full time, right? And I would argue that there's something in between for those of us who can work but cannot work 40 hours or need to be more conscientious of our work environment, those sorts of things, right? Same holds true for like anything else, right? But like there's literally like you either can't work or you have to work full time or you can't, receive supportive assistance. I think that's bullshit. I think we can do better. And that is why I am in favor of systems and structures collapsing, because we could do better in service of more people. Now, is there always going to be fraud and people taking advantage of the systems? Yeah, that's always going to be a thing. And, right now the systems and the structures don't have um they don't have the whatever, I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, but they don't have like the safeguards maybe in place to prevent fraud from happening. But I feel like there's a way that it could be done and it could be more productive for everyone involved. Because there are those of us who would really like to, you know, be participating, doing more than we're doing, and yet it becomes a dicey situation when you attempt to do that. They don't make it easy to get out of the system. And that's why I feel like we could do better. We could have something that is way more supportive for having people who have limitations in whatever capacity do and participate in society to their capacity. We all participate in some sort of system structure thing. Even if all you do is pay your taxes, you're still participating in the thing. Okay. And I have two things I'm going to say before I jump into the charts. One, if more people understood how much fraud and money laundering is actually happening in this country, people would be pissed and nobody would ever pay taxes again. Two, Kyle Busch died. Kyle Busch is a NASCAR race car driver. No, I don't follow NASCAR, but I know enough about people who do. They changed the number on, on Kyle Busch's car from 8 to 33. It's almost like it's obvious. Like it's so obvious, it's in our faces. If you don't know the significance of 33, you should go look it up. But that just so suspicious, so obvious, so blatant. Anywho, I'm going to pull up the chart for the full moon, and I'm going to use that chart to talk about several transits that are happening here, the end of May and the beginning of June. So let's take a look at that. All right. So as I said, this full moon's happening May 31 at 3:45 a.m. Central Time. Adjust for your time zone. We have the moon at 9 degrees and 55 geometric minutes of Sag, with the sun at 9 degrees and 55 minute geometric minutes of Gemini. Just outside of a conjunction, sun is just outside. It's separating from its conjunction from Uranus. So if we want to take a look over here, on the left-hand side of the chart, the sun conjunct Uranus on May 23rd, I think, or 4th. I think it was the 3rd, 23rd, 24th, somewhere in there, the sun conjuncted Uranus. So it's separating from that conjunction. Meanwhile, we also had, you see, Mars is at 9 degrees of Taurus, but on the 25th, it was at 5 degrees, squaring Pluto in Aquarius, retrograde in Aquarius. We've had a lot of power, like pressure power situations, right? We see that in the current event world. You probably noticed it in your personal life. Um, something showed up in a power play in relationships, something showed up in a power play at your job, or, when you were out in the world, maybe you were driving, maybe, I mean, and it could have been something as simple as like a cart war at the grocery store or something like that, like to make it super like tangible. But it also could have been like a relationship situation. It could have been a work situation, or, what, who knows? Yes, plenty of people worked on Memorial Day weekend. I honestly, Memorial Day, Monday, nobody was barbecuing. I didn't smell any barbecues anywhere. That's wild. So I don't, but I know most people I talked to were working. So anyway, but that Mars Pluto square is separating that Uranus Sun conjunction is separating, but that moon will oppose Uranus on its way. So probably like Saturday evening when the moon enters Sagittarius, it will oppose Uranus and Gemini. So I think this could be a very loud moon. I mean, it's a fire sign anyway, so fireful moons are typically louder. This is happening on a Sunday, but I mean, remember that astrology transits do peak at a certain point, but it's how they reverberate throughout, like leading up to and then separating from. So like maybe nothing happens on the 31st, but something happens on the 30th and then June 1st, right? So I kind of like this. It seems like a very social moon, full moon, but it also could be a cautionary just because there's so much fire that you kind of now want to be a little more conscientious with fire full moons than in the last several years. But it also could be a good time to be social and, to get out and enjoy, maybe it'll be decent weather. But once again, I think we're kind of going to have a very dry drought summer, probably no matter where you live, depending on how your weather works. I live in the Midwest, so it's hit or miss with us. Either we have a super wet year or a very dry but very humid year. I feel like that's how this year is going to be, very dry and very fucking humid. I hate humidity. I miss the desert so bad. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Okay. I want to turn your attention to Chiron, which is that key, green key looking glyph that's at 29 degrees of Aries. Because if you are born between 1978 and about 1983 or 4, Chiron is about to move into Taurus. He does not officially move into Taurus until I think June 19th, I think. But either way, mid-June. He's only going to get to 0 degrees of Taurus this year and then will fully enter Taurus in 2027. But for those of us born between 1978 and 1983, welcome to your Chiron return. You heard of a Saturn return. There's also a Chiron return, usually happens around the age of 48, 49, 50. I do know I've known plenty of people who've had theirs in recent years. What does that say about me? Because I'm getting close to mine. But here's the important thing to note about Chiron entering Taurus. Chiron entering Taurus in June is really going to have us make choices about practical problem solving, scarcity versus abundance. We're going to feel like there's scarcity mode. we're going to feel like we don't have the resources. Taurus is earthy. It is food, it's money, it's earthly possessions, those sorts of things. And so we really could feel the pressure of Chiron entering Taurus. I think it's there until September before it retrogrades back into Aries. So just kind of something to just be thinking about is you may have to get creative with your resources, creative with your problem solving skills. And if you're not good at problem solving, perhaps have somebody in your back pocket who is good at problem solving to support you when you feel like your resources are very limited, because that could really be a thing. I can tell you that my Chiron return is coming up in the next few years, and it will be with Chiron co-present with Saturn in Taurus. That's exciting. Something to look forward to in the next few years, let me tell you. I don't think that they conjunct exactly at 5 degrees of Taurus, but it's close fucking enough for me to have a fantastic Chiron return with Saturn and Chiron co-present in Taurus. Anyway, once Saturn moves into Taurus, which will probably be, I want to say in 2028, but once that happens, we'll really feel the restriction of resources, of money, of possibly food, possibly, restrictions of our current luxurious lives, having our food delivered, all of our technology, all of our possessions, and all of the things that we now consider just daily parts of our lives could get very restricted. That's just not really anything to panic about. Again, it's going to be a matter of how creative are you at problem solving. And if you're, again, not creative and practical with resources and problem solving, might want to have somebody in your back pocket who can support you when these things do start to play out. So that's Chiron. And then we want to look down here. We've got Venus at 15. This is as of the 14, sorry. This is as of the full moon on the 31st. Venus is at 14 Cancer. Hygieia is at 15 and Jupiter is at 23. Venus and Jupiter are going to conjunct in Cancer. This happens in about 10-ish days from the peak of the full moon. And so it's just something to kind of be aware of. Venus and Jupiter, the two benefics in the cosmos, but could bring some good things, but it's all in how whatever you're nurturing. Cancer is about nurturing, maternal, all of those sorts of things. What are you healing? What are you what's your home situation? Are you taking care of your home? Do you feel cozy and comfy in your home? If not, what can you do to kind of amplify that or bring that into a better balance? Kind of is what this Jupiter, Venus conjunct Jupiter, may be asking of you. It could make things look like too good to be true. I've talked about it before. It's sparkly on the outside, smells like shit on the inside. So there could be those sorts of things, like you think a place looks really good and you walk in and it's, are you serious? I have been through that before. Don't move to a place sight unseen. I did do that in my current place, but it was also an apartment building, so I wasn't terribly concerned, but I did that before, about 12 years ago. I moved to a place sight unseen and it was terrible. It was really bad. It was a house. I was a friend who offered to let me live with them. But he didn't mention that he didn't have working laundry or a working shower. He didn't mention the leaky room. It was bad, guys. It was really bad. Anyway, so that would have been a circumstance of, in fact, that would have been 2014. So probably would have been when Jupiter was last in Cancer. So anyway, luckily that didn't happen the same way this time around. Yes, I live in an apartment building and it's annoying because I have neighbors, but it's not that bad. And I love my location. So there's that. Um, okay. Now I want to talk very quickly about something that's going to be happening pretty much throughout the month of June. I'm gonna pull up my Did I hit the wrong thing? Oh shit. Yes, I did. Sorry. Hold on. Let me hit the right button. There we go. Okay. I want to look at the north and the south nodes in Virgo and Pisces because we're almost done with that transit. It started in January of 2025. And then we got to look at, sorry, I'm a terrible drawer, but I'm going to do my best here. They're going to get squared by Uranus and Gemini. And so we have to really think about what these nodes, because they're almost done, right? The nodes change at the end of July. They will move into South Node Leo, North Node Aquarius. So we're almost done with this transit. But I really would like to invite you to think about things like work environments, work circumstances, job environments, education, because Gemini rules K through 12 education. And think about things like water and the seas and what we've seen there. There's also healthcare. Pisces Virgo is the health axis of the zodiac, and the amount of people that are currently taking the weight loss injectables and or other types of things for weight loss. I'm not judging or criticizing. I'm saying that in the last 18 months, that has had an uptick in consumerism, right? People are taking them more, but also we have to think about the fact that more and more people are leaving healthcare work. More and more people are leaving education. Teachers are quitting. Teachers are leaving. They're done. They're burned out. Healthcare workers are burned out. They're tired. And I'm not saying all of this for fear. I'm saying this to just look around at what has changed in these different job fields, career industries over the last 18 months. We've also had corporate businesses change from humans to AI, and then some have reverted back to humans because they realize the AI is not the quality that they wanted, and things like that. I think AI is great. I use it occasionally, not frequently, but I do use it occasionally. I can tell you that my manuscript had no AI. I barely even dictated any of it because I hated editing dictation. It was actually fucking annoying. So I taped my entire manuscript. But I think that what we will see is especially once the nodes move into North Node Aquarius, we will see an uptick in the use of AI, and to each their own. But one, we will see more people become entrepreneurs who would have never been entrepreneurs because AI will help them build a business plan. That's wonderful. Here's the drawback. The drawback is those same people who are building business plans using AI do not have foundational computer skills to maintain that business plan. I'm not saying that as criticism. I'm saying that as you, even if you're using AI, you still need to learn how basic fundamental computer skills. And so I don't think it's a bad thing, although I don't think that AI in its current configuration, especially the like low cost or free versions, because I think there's some really good ones out there. And I have heard some folks who do use AI for different things and they pay big ass bucks for their AI systems, like hundreds of dollars they pay for their AI systems, and they use them to build their websites and they use them to build services and things like that. But I think that if you're not paying for it or you're paying very low dollar for AI, you're probably selling yourself short as far as what AI could really be doing for you. So anyway, I just think that's something to think about. I think that people who are not getting foundational skills or fundamental computer skills and using AI, the longevity won't be there because ultimately they won't know what they're doing. So I think we'll see an uptick in entrepreneurship. That's a beautiful thing. There are people who will become entrepreneurs who wouldn't have ordinarily become entrepreneurs. That's a beautiful thing. However, I think that the longevity is something to really be mindful of when it comes to AI. So anyway, throughout the month of June, this transit, I'm just inviting you to take a look at things like work, healthcare, jobs, education, because I feel like, and interestingly enough, even on the 31st, this aspect, the Uranus squaring the nodes is already in play, and it's going to kind of persist for a while. And I think that's interesting timing with the schools getting out for the summer. We really could see a change in K through 12 education before the beginning of next school year at the earliest, because teachers are done. Teachers are leaving. And I know plenty of teachers who enjoy their job, and I'm here for that, but I know plenty of teachers who are done because teaching has gotten so hard. There's kindergartners that are not potty trained. What? That's mind-boggling to me. But it is what it is. We got kids who can't read, kids who can't use their pincer grasp, all these fine motor skills that they don't have and things like that. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to kind of pay attention to in the long run. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you this transit. If you do have planets or points in your birth chart between 0 and 4 degrees of Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini, I think this is something to really pay attention to, what you've noticed in your life since January of 2025, so that you kind of have an idea of maybe where things are changing. Because if you've got if you're any of the mutable sign risings, Virgo rising, Sag rising, Gemini rising, Pisces rising, or even if you have a personal planet, meaning Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, you could be highly affected by this transit. So I think that's something, and especially Mercury, because Virgo and Uranus, or sorry, Virgo and Gemini are both Mercury signs. So if you are Mercury sensitive, you might be someone who's like ADHD minded or neurodivergent, autistic minded. This might affect you more than others around you, because this is such a heavy Mercury aspect. So just take that into consideration. And of course, if you'd like a reading with me to look at your Mercury, we can do that. My links are in the description box. Okay. Come on. Okay. So that's the chart. It's really it's really an interesting time. Actually, hold on one second. All right, I just wanted to switch my image to remind you of this July transit. July starts with a Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini for the first time since 1948, so about 77 years, 78 years maybe. But after that, we have this beautiful transit that is referred to as a basket. I've actually referred to it as a hammock, because it feels like it's like you're just chilling in the hammock and getting rocked. But we have Jupiter. This is on the 18th of July. So between the 18th and the 21st of July, we have this type of a transit happening. But we have Jupiter opposite Pluto and Jupiter trining Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries, Leo, and Aquarius. Um, and then even without Jupiter for the most part of the month of July, we have Pluto at 4 trine Uranus at 4 Gemini. We have the sextile between Uranus and Neptune, the ongoing sextile between Neptune and Pluto. That's been going on for like a century. Um, we also have a sextile between Saturn and Mars, Saturn in Aries and Mars in Gemini throughout this whole thing too. And so this goes on for the entirety of the month of July, pretty much. It's such a magical transit. It's at 4 degrees. So again, if you've got planets or points in air signs, fire signs, um, a, around 4 degrees, my computer just yelled in my ear. Um, I love this transit because it's harmonious. It's trines and sextiles. Those are the most harmonious transits that you can have. And I think that there will be some magical things happening. It's going to be, you may not even feel like you're doing anything and things happen depending on what you have at these, at 4 degrees of any sign. But I also feel like when we have this magnitude of a harmony transit in the sky is when most likely we will see the craziest of crazy current event shit we've probably ever seen in our lives. Um, I can imagine that even not even because the Schumann doesn't update, but as it's, it updates in real time. So there's no way of pre-looking at the Schumann, but I can only imagine that this is going to be fairly lit up. So I have said this for a while, but like basically what this is the amount of light that we're receiving will put your intuition, your clairvoyance, your claircognizance, your clair audience, your all of your clair senses into hyper mode. And I'm going to tell you that I'm already experiencing that. My clairs have been, I can smell things I haven't been able to smell before. Um, I've had epiphanies or like ping light bulb moments. Um, just so many things. I am normally not such a light sleeper that like sounds wake me up, but like lately sounds have been waking me up, but other than my fucking alarm. But anyway, so you might be very much extra sensory sensitive during the next couple of months, is basically what I'm getting at. So if that is something that you deal with, if that's something you deal with already, is like sensory overload, emotional overload, I think that like without grounding your nervous system, calming your nervous system, you may be very overwhelmed throughout the next couple of months. So I have socks on. I couldn't grip the floor to move my chair. Okay. First word problems, right? Let's look at some tarot for this full moon. um, and all this upcoming energy. Of course, you can join me over on the Awakening Spirit Collective. That link is below. I have the links for if you want to book with me, if you want to look at your Mercury to see how some of this stuff is going to affect you. We do have a Mercury retrograde coming up at the end of June into July in Cancer. So it's going to be very hyper sensory, intuitively, emotionally charged Mercury retrograde, along with the transit that I just showed you. So, lots of reasons for getting a metaphysical work done or getting some understanding of metaphysics and how it works. I often refer to it as spiritual mentorship, but it's also called metaphysics, and I do work with people on that. So if that's something you're interested in, I need to create some new programs. But honestly, I'm like 5 weeks out from my manuscript being due, and priorities, kids, priorities. I want this damn thing done. I have 2 events coming up in the month of June, and I fully intend to be present at both of them to enjoy the people and puppies that I will be around. But other than that, I am fully locked in to completing my manuscript. So let's see what we got in the tarot. Um, King of Wands. Standing your ground, knowing that you have the authority within you. Um, yeah, I like this. You have the authority within yourself. Your power is within you. Your ability to be your own captain, to be your own dungeon master is within you. So if you're allowing anybody else to power play you or over you or control you in any type of capacity, this King of Wands is here to remind you that the power is within you to control your own situation, your own outcome, all of that. And that might mean taking some measures. um, what is this? Hold on. What is this? The Four of Swords. One, two, three, four. Four of Swords in reverse. Four of Swords in reverse. Sorry, I need my cheat sheet. Forgive me. Four of Swords in reverse. Um, one second. Bear with me. One of these days, I will have a better way of learning tarot. Today is not the day. Swords. Three of Swords. Four of Swords in reverse. Time to move forward. Open-minded. Um, get back out there. Yeah, I mean, I talked about this being a fairly like sociable full moon, and Gemini with both Uranus and Mercury currently co-present in Gemini. It is a social time. It is a time to get out there. And I guarantee you, I'm a total introvert. I'm a hermit. It's in my astrology chart. It's in my human design chart that I am a hermit. Okay. So I totally feel you on the keeping to yourself. I'm also an Aquarius sun with a Scorpio rising. I'm all about keeping to myself. Most people, most people don't view the world how I do. So I just get fucking annoyed with people. But um, I have been in the practice of getting myself out there. I've been trying to go to different local markets so that I am actually engaging and interacting with people. I've been trying to even socialize within my own building, right? You know, just going and staying downstairs a little bit longer, saying hi to people and you know, chit-chatting and whatnot. It doesn't have to mean you go to parties. It doesn't have to mean you go to the club because I'm not going to do that. But um, I do think that it's time to move forward. Maybe you have severed some ties recently. Four of Swords, you cut some cords. And so now it's time to move forward. You know, you got your get your, you know, Stella, was it Stella that got her groove back? um you know, and that King of Wands upright, it's having the authority within yourself that like you don't have to do things the way other people do things just because people think that you're doing it wrong. You're probably not doing it wrong. You're doing it your way. You're doing it the way that you feel stretched but comfortable, and that is different for each person. Okay. I've also been using a little secret tool to help me get out of my own comfort zone. So I have a programmed AI service that I pay for to help me get out of my comfort zone. and it's made me cry at like how it's just like reminding me that like you're by nature an introvert, you're by nature a hermit, and that is part of who you're supposed to be. But it's okay to want to get out and socialize and get involved with things and stuff like that. So I have really been practicing and working on it, and it's hard and it's uncomfortable, but I know that it's part of what I want to do for myself and my work and my book. And so, but I don't do it how people think I should do it, and that's okay. You don't have to either. So don't get intimidated if people think you should be doing it differently. You do it the way you need to do it for you. But by all means, get out there and definitely socialize. And speaking of, the Oracle deck this week is the Believe in Your Own Magic. I haven't used this deck in a long time. And we got the Throne, um, which says, your potential is endless. What did I say earlier? Every person with a disability has a capacity to work and to do something to participate in society. And each of us has an endless capacity. And many of us' capacity is coming online with the Claire activations, the psychic senses activations that's happening with Uranus and Gemini. So if you're feeling sensory overwhelm or overstimulation, it's okay. I'm experiencing it too. So you're not alone, I promise. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Drop a comment. If you want to work with me, that's an option. If you want to work on your Mercury stuff with this Uranus and Gemini and your sensory overload and all of the things, just, reach out to me. I'm here for you. Okay, I'll talk to y'all next time. Take care.